Hello, welcome. It's Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, where I discuss the future of our region blessed with hydrocarbon resources. Every week, we gather together and we give some time to reflecting on topics that are relevant to the development of the Niger-Delta and her people. On this episode, we're doing the same as well. I'm here and we're focusing once again on how to take this region to a more promising future. Now, the podcast is sponsored by the operator of the NNPC, Renaissance, the Total Energies Ajib joint venture. Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited, headquartered in Port Harcourt. Thank you for joining. I'm Adedayo Elushakin. Topic for this episode is despair but not disillusioned, or despair, not disillusioned. And I'll just get right to my guest for today's edition, and that will be, and for good reason, by the way, because it will form a major part of the introduction for this conversation. My guest is editor with the Independent Monitor, a man I truly enjoy conversing with, especially after many years on radio and a couple of times on Canvas as well. Olanlekon Ige. Lekon, great to have you on the show once again.
Yeah, thank you, Dio, for having me.
Now, this introduction is one of a kind. It's different from, I think, any other introduction that's happened on the podcast since we started recording this, because even arriving here was quite dramatic, remarkable for a number of reasons, a lot of which I won't get into. However, I had a conversation with you, a fun conversation, and that conversation led to this recording, this episode. On that conversation, we discussed what we're going to discuss right now. And it was a phrase that you used in that conversation that from which I deduced the topic that we're having today, that we're discussing rather, despair, not disillusioned. And I'm looking forward to it, really. It's great to have you once again.
Yeah, thank you, Dio. Thank you.
I think it's the most underrated thing to say that a lot of Nigerians are very disturbed at this time for a number of reasons. And there's a lot of despair in the air. But you made a statement in that conversation. It's okay to despair, but do not be disillusioned. And there are a number of reasons why a lot of Nigerians might despair right now. The data, the fact speaks for itself. There's hardly a young person, or even not so young person that you speak to these days, that does not have an intention to, quote unquote, japa, leave the country. Professionals in different fields, especially in the medical field, even other fields, of course. And also, we have, in the manner of speaking, we are in an election cycle, again, sort of, even though you can say that the runners have jumped the marks. But we do have some staggered elections going on. Other parts of the election process have commenced already. Registration, re-registration of voters, people, PVCs and all of that. Primaries, of course. So let me ask you this. Let me bring you in right away. I think I feel like I've been talking for too long. When you used that expression when we spoke earlier on the phone, and you said it's okay to despair but not be disillusioned, what did you mean by that?
Well, it's only, excuse me, please, it's only natural, as human beings to feel frustrated, over certain things. And of course, you look at the situation in the country and you understand why a lot of Nigerians are frustrated, why a lot of Nigerians are just disillusioned, about the country. Our greatest problem right now is insecurity, and you can see what is happening, across the length and breadth of Nigeria. So you understand why people can become disillusioned and despair, so to say. But then, to give up will be the worst thing, because it will mean that we're doomed already. It will mean that what is the essence of living in the first place? We can despair, but we should not be doomed. We can have disillusionment in the way and manner we think, in the mere manner we reason, but then we have to find a way to just be able to trudge on and find something to connect the hopes and aspirations of Nigerians to the greater good of the country.
I attempted a description, if you will, of some of the concerns or some of the reasons why some Nigerians, some might say a lot of Nigerians feel despair, and others might even be disillusioned at this time. But I'd like your take on it. What are the major issues that confront Nigerians that is at the heart of the despair that many Nigerians feel these days?
It's just basic. Look at the sustainable development goals. Look at the basic needs of human existence. Nigerians are not asking for so much fantastic things. Basic amenities, water, light, good roads, excellent healthcare facilities, the opportunities, the leverages available for them to be able to implement or execute or utilize, their God-given talent. All those basics are not, available. The number one need of human existence is food. So food should be guaranteed. Food should be the least of the worry of the average, Nigerian. As of today, can we say that is true? How many Nigerians are able to eat 3 times a day? What is even the quality of the food they are eating 3 times a day? So how many Nigerians can afford to eat 3 times a day? The next thing after food definitely would be accommodation. Look at the skyrocketing cost of rent and all of that. Nigerians struggling to be able to have a decent place, to live in. The next thing, you add clothing to it. How many Nigerians can afford all of this? We've not talked about regular supply of water, availability of water. You've not talked about electricity. So look at all of these things, put them together, and you understand why Nigerians just think that this country is not working, and rather they are staying behind to help, salvage the situation. Let me look for the next available plane, out of Nigeria and leave this country for good.
The average leadership at the different levels in Nigeria, whether it's the local level. I remember when I was on radio. Is it okay for me to say this now? I used to describe them as non-existent local government. Anyways, federal, state government and federal government would the average individual occupying any position at those levels would tell you that they're doing quite a lot. We're doing this, we're doing that, and the people are happy with us. So there is a perspective that it's not as bad as things are being painted. There is some other perspective that says that it's even worse than it's being portrayed. So which is it exactly?
Well, Dayo, one of the challenges we have, like I've always said, is what I will call accident of placement. Accident of placement in the sense that we have a sizable number of people occupying both elective and appointive positions who didn't want any position. You just talked about the local government. Of course, you already know what happens at the local government level. It is not about those who are ready to become local government chairman. No, it is about those who have been nominated by godfathers. So you find somebody who is a local government chairman and he uses 3 years to even learn what local government administration is all about. What was his vision even before becoming a local government chairman? Was he even ready to assume that position? You have people who are governors, not because they wanted to be governors, no, but because they have been favored by godfathers. And you have seen it across the length and breadth of Nigeria. You have people who are in state and national assembly who didn't want to be there. But because the godfather says, okay, you come, you are the one that will be the next to go to House of Assembly or go to Reps or go to Senate or become a local government chairman or a governor. So when you have people who are accidentally in office, then they struggle. You just mentioned the issue of local government. I was discussing with a friend recently, and he was telling me that the local government chairman where I was working was struggling to even understand what budgetary process was all about. He had his colleagues presenting budget, and the man says, look, they should just put up something together. Let him present it as a budget. So you can imagine a local government chairman who doesn't even know what he wants to execute in the local government. He doesn't even know how to go about preparing a budget and all of that. So what do you expect? He wasn't ready to be local government chairman. He was put there. He has to service the godfathers. He has to service several anchors on and all of that. So you understand that from that perspective. Take it to somebody who is a governor. He didn't want to be governor. He had no vision to be governor. You even have some people who wanted to be governor, not because they are ready to do any reasonable thing, but they just want to answer being a governor or being a former governor. So we struggle to be able to put all of this together. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to mention the interventionist agency, is an interventionist agency, and I saw them building a church inside the compound of the interventionist agency. Was that the responsibility of the agency to build a church inside the premises? For what purpose? To achieve what end? So you also find out that we also have what is called misplacements of priorities. Why would that interventionist agency be building church inside the premises? What do you need the church for? There are several churches available there where you can have your own program and all of that. So you look at the way we misplace even what we are meant to do. You have people who are in office. It is not the result of the policies they want to execute. It's not because they heard from the people. They just feel that this is what is good for the people. How does that happen? So you struggle to find implementation, through it. And that is what happens, from the local government to the state, even to the federal level. And you understand why we're struggling at this point in our lives.
While we may have that scenario of the local government chairman, hypothetical maybe, that you just described, who had no idea, or the one that your friend described to you, who
Yeah.
doesn't even understand budgetary processes, is that reflective of the governance structure across the country?
I'm sure you have seen it. You have seen where governors think for the people. They just believe that, okay, this will be good, for the people. I've always said it. Look, we say the number one need of human existence is food. So why are we not investing sufficiently into agriculture? Check the length and breadth of Nigeria. Check the region that produces most of the food in Nigeria. Check the region that is consuming most of the food from that particular region of Nigeria. It's not as if that southern region of Nigeria is not rich in arable land. People will not just thought that agriculture, makes sense. Remove agriculture. What of in terms of creativity? What of in terms of other industrial activities that can take place? What kind of conversation are we having? What kind of decisions are we taking? What kind of policies are we implementing to directly lift people out of poverty? We say Nigeria is a poverty capital of the world. So what policies are we making, even at the governorship level, to ensure that we lift people out of poverty? How do we track how many people we are lifting out of poverty? All of this put together, then you understand why we have an insecurity in Nigeria. Some people have just become so disillusioned and they feel that, well, like we say, local balance, all die and I die. Let me go into crime. Not because they really want to be in crime. They just feel that that's a means of survival. They've also seen people who joined the politics and within 4 years, they've seen what the people have acquired and they think the only way they can equalize themselves with those who are holding political offices is to go into crime.
Many reasons may be responsible for food insufficiency. However, one major one, no doubt, would be the issue of insecurity. Because whatever level we were before, which may have been considered good before the numbers started to drop, or whatever highest peak we were at any point in time, a major contributor to the decline right now would be insecurity. Because the places where we even have food being grown, you hear cases of people not being able to go to their farms any longer. We have other situations also bordering on insecurity vis-a-vis farmer herders clashes, different parts of the country, especially the middle belts, and even north, and even more recently as well, even down south also. Um, However, once again, approaching the average politician or office holder in Nigeria, you hear arguments such as insecurity as dire and as concerning as it is in Nigeria. It's not peculiar to Nigeria. Insecurity is a global phenomenon. The whole world is dealing with it. Even the most advanced societies, quote unquote, are dealing with insecurity as well, and it's not peculiar to Nigeria.
Well, I think they are just being clever by half. You won't say insecurity is present all over the world. No, I don't agree with that. It is the level that you are looking at, in this place. If you talk about security breaches all over the world, that's normal. Human interaction would mean that you have this kind of situation, but not when insecurity now occupies a front burner, not when insecurity now means that people cannot even travel. As of today, people are even travel to some parts of Nigeria. People are even afraid to even be able to commute from their house to their office and be able to come back. People are afraid to go to farm. A lot of things, constituting insecurity in Nigeria. You have a lot of people who are not even Nigerians, who are foreigners, but who have joined the bandwagon of causing insecurity in Nigeria. And we cannot continue to say, no, it's the same problem all over the world. I disagree completely with that. I disagree.
Okay, you talk about jobs as well. People, or or you inferred that at least earlier on. And by the way, what we're doing right now, we're just trying to touch, generally on some of the issues that may be causing despair for Nigerians. I mean, you need to be able to earn a living, be engaged in some economic activity to even suggest that you can cater to those basic needs you described a while ago. Recently, the first lady of the country got into some social media storm over some comments that she made, which some might could interpret as simply her trying to encourage Nigerians into entrepreneurship, doing something for yourself. Of course, many Nigerians took those words or didn't take those words very well, and have run amok on social media. But some other perspective would argue that she was simply trying to encourage you to find something to do, engage yourself meaningfully, and whatever it is you do, at least you can take care of yourself. You can fend for yourself. Would that be a plausible argument that Nigerians simply aren't doing enough to try to eke out something for themselves, to try to engage themselves meaningfully,
I think,
rather than waiting for that white collar job someplace?
no, I think it's arguable. Arguable in the sense that I understand what the wife of the president was trying to say. And I always say that, look, there is sizable number of Nigerians who have pride in terms of what they should do. And do you understand where they may be coming from? To be involved in entrepreneurship isn't a bad thing. It's to identify a niche and see what you can do. Why the job you're waiting for is not available? Are there other possibilities of what you can do? Are there other opportunities, of what you can do? We can say, yes, electricity is not regular. What kind of business are you going to be doing? Even if you want to fry the akara, as she suggested, or you want to roast the corn, as she suggested, what of local government officials, state government officials who come and disturb you, demanding for one form of fee or the other, and the rest. But if you put all of them together, yes, we can find a space, because the way life is structured, it does not mean that everybody will be equal at any point in time, or we'll be all be doing the same thing. There'll be people that will be involved in the service industry. There'll be people that will be involved in almost every sector. So I'll give you an example. Where I usually park my car when I go to work, there's a young man that comes around every morning. What does he do? He asks us, are you willing to wash your car today? And he said, yes, okay, wash the car. This is my number. When you're done, call me. So look at that guy. Let's say he washes an average of 10 cars in a day, and he collects 1,000 naira from each person, and he washes it an average of 10 cars. It gives about 10,000 in a day. So are there other things we can copy from what the guy is doing? Yes, he may not have the kind of job he needs at the moment, but washing of cars enables him to be able to eat every day. So if he washes 10 cars in a day, and he's done that for just about 20 days, he's able to earn about 200,000 naira without having to do so much stress, because people are always available every day. So can we encourage people to be industrious, whatever sector they want to be involved in? Can we encourage them to be industrious, whatever skill, whatever um, trade, or whatever they want to learn? Is there a way we can encourage them? Is there a way we can make them better? Can we create safety nets, for them, so that, look, if you are doing this kind of business, you are not expected to pay tax, you are not expected to pay levies. Should the local government be protecting them? Should the state government be protecting them? We can put all of this together and say, maybe she was only trying to encourage people to be industrious. Find something to do while you're waiting for better things to come.
Justice. The justice system. Justice is critical to everything in any society. Knowing that the rules apply. There are rules, and the rules apply to everyone. It's what gives us equal footing. It's what ensures that I can get what belongs to me. It's what ensures that a person cannot just rise from someplace, and even that which I've been able to get for myself legally, of course, can just snatch it away from me. Ensure that we're not living in a jungle that separates us from animals, so to speak. we have processes, we have systems, and it's very key to the growth and sustainability of any society. What is the justice system, or your assessment of justice process and accessibility of it in Nigeria at the moment?
Well, I think that's a challenge. Justice is a challenge. Remember that justice is also tied to the quality of democracy. We can't have a good judicial system without a very good democracy. They work hand in hand because when you check the democratic system, that is the way and manner we elect leaders. So we elect leaders to be able to shape a lot of things. The judiciary is one of the three arms of government, and it's one area that Nigerians have also expressed dissatisfactions, with. Then you understand the background, of course, from where they're coming through. And you'd say that if you have a sound democratic culture, they will be able to find a sound judicial system. But unfortunately, because our democracy has struggled over the years, our judiciary has also struggled with it.
What is the problem with our democracy?
It is the way and manner.
That's
Of course, yes, because it's the way and manner we elect our leaders. It's the way and manner we're able to carry out the electioneering process. And for as long as we don't get it right, it will always affect every sphere of our human life, every sphere. Because if we get the leadership right, then it means that we can get almost every structure right. We can be able to put planks, in place for people to be able to step on and achieve, greater goals. So without a very sound democracy, a fair democracy, even if we don't have 100% of democratic principles, let's have something like 80%, something like 85%, something that can put in checks and balances, something that identifies that where we are wrong and where we need to be able to fix it quickly and ensure the greater good of Nigerians. We are still struggling to be able to do that.
Critical to any democracy or democratic process is the electoral process. And we keep having, and even currently, I think we're undergoing some electoral reforms. We keep doing that. We brought on the BVAS, some form of electronics and IT to improve the electoral process, and we keep tweaking with the electoral laws. Are you suggesting that in spite of all these tweaks and quote unquote improvements and advancements, we're not making progress?
Well, for a lot of Nigerians, they always blame, INEC during election. And I've taken my time to look at elections in the last 8 years. And you find out that INEC isn't the problem. And I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will disagree with me, but INEC isn't the problem. INEC is just an institution. Unfortunately for INEC, it has to rely on Nigerians to serve as polling clerks, polling agents, returning officers, and a whole lot of ad hoc staff that INEC will need to engage during the election. So when you have Nigerians who superintend over this electionary process, and it is same Nigerians are complaining, are also the same set of Nigerians who can be easily bribed, are the same set of Nigerians who can be easily influenced, by being given money, then you wonder why you should blame INEC. The processes are straightforward, but what about the Nigerians who serve as ad hoc staff during the election itself? How are we able to vouch for some of these people? We readily bring the example of what happened in Abia State, where the returning officer for the governorship election, Professor Nena Oti, you saw the pressure she had to go through. She was even summoned to Abuja by INEC to say, look, what's happening in Abia? The woman went to Abuja and told them pointedly, I will announce the result as obtained from the field. The woman withstood all manner of pressure, returned to Abia, and declared the winner of the governorship election in Abia. That was a brave woman. A lot of people will have succumbed. Not that she wasn't offered money. She was offered money running into hundreds of millions. She rejected it, stood her ground, maintained her dignity, maintained her integrity, and announced the true winner of the election in Abia. I think the jury will be out, and Abia people can confirm whether whoever that won that governorship election has been able to, bring about changes in that state. So just so you imagine that we have such caliber of human being in 774 local government areas of Nigeria. Just imagine if we have the caliber of such a woman in 36 states of Nigeria, including Abuja. Imagine we have such caliber of woman in over 170,000 polling units in Nigeria. Then you understand that we could easily have a very good election where the right people would win the election. But unfortunately, we don't have it. We have Nigerians who complain, and same Nigerians are also the ones that are bribed during some of these elections to go against the will of the people and announce fake results.
Look, I'm sorry for the question I'm about to ask you right now. Let me apologize ahead. However, I consider you one of the most informed, enlightened, and objective Nigerians that I know. As a matter of fact, that is why we're having this conversation and recording this on this podcast, on the show. From what you said so far, what is working in Nigeria then?
Okay, the question you've just asked now, is at the heart of what you said when you started. Should we give up? That is at the heart of it. Just this question is at the heart of it. And I said, look, what is working in Nigeria is that we still have Nigerians that are alive. That's the only thing that is working in Nigeria. We have Nigerians that are alive. We have some Nigerians that are struggling to make sure that, look, we can get this country right. We have some Nigerians who have just given up and said, there's no need to remain in this country again. Let me take off. Then we have the rest of Nigerians who want positions by hook or by crook. And we can just say, look, we have a country called Nigeria. So we have three sets of Nigerians who are pulling the country at different ends. So it's only by should I say, by shared, let's say by the sheer will of God, because we always call on God every time. But God has given us the brain, to be able to lead ourselves. So I'm sure at a point, God will look at us as Nigerians and say, these are not serious-minded people. I've given them everything that they need to survive, but they are not just willing to implement it. So we have Nigerians that are alive. We have Nigerians that are willing to make the country right, that are willing to leave the country, and those that want the raise of power by hook or by crook.
So, before we go on the break, for more said thus far, I will ask you that question again. Maybe try to rephrase it. With everything that's been said so far, why then did you use the expression, which has formed the topic for this conversation, despair but not disillusioned? It seems, not necessarily so, there's a lot of doom and gloom.
I'm trying to avoid using the word doom and gloom, because it will mean that there's simply no need for us to exist again. Maybe we should just call on external forces to come and take over the administration of Nigeria. We still have something looks like a functional democracy. We still have people who are in leadership positions. We have people too, like I said earlier, who are trying to make something out of what we have at the moment. Some of them elected who are trying to, bring about changes, bring about policies, programs, and activities that can help the people. So we see our people who are trying to hold the country together rather than allow it to collapse.
It is Converse in Niger-Delta Roundtable brought to you by Renaissance and Dial. Despair, not disillusioned, is our topic for this conversation. My guest is Ola Lekoenge. We're going for a break. When we return, I'll be asking Lekon, because all you said so far seems like there's more than enough reason why Nigerians should despair. Why should they not be disillusioned? And what can they do to help the situation? We'll look at that when we return from the break. To stay with us, Canvas returns shortly.
In the heart of our journey, where the sun touches the earth and the wind whispers through the trees, a new chapter unfolds. A chapter where energy illuminates more than just bulbs. It lights up minds. A chapter of unity, a coming together with a common goal to energize futures and illuminating lives. In classrooms, young dreams evolve, inspired by the promise of a brighter tomorrow fueled by available energy. Small businesses flourish, becoming seeds of prosperity. Energy that empowers and is catalyst for growth and change. The future is energy. So, let's light up the path to a sustainable future together. Energy for you, me, and the world at large. Energy for people and planet. We are Renaissance.
Welcome back. Still Canvas, an Niger-Delta roundtable brought to you by Renaissance. I'm Dio. My guest is still Olanlekon Ige, editor with the Independent Monitor. Lekon, great to have you here again.
Yeah, thanks for having me once again.
Our topic, despair, not disillusioned. And once again, I take no credit for that topic. It was a phrase that was used by Leko in a conversation I had with him sometime earlier. And that's led to the conversation we're having right now. In the first half of this recording, Leko, you've given sufficient reason. If this were a debate, it reminds me when I was in secondary school, you have been able to convince us, but not confuse us, that we have more than enough reason to despair. There's no doubt about that. But in the same breath, like when you say, we can despair, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we must not be disillusioned. That suggests that there's something that can be done, should be done, may be done, must be done. What is it?
Well, I think we must come to a realization that we just have to alter the course, of Nigeria. We have to alter the course of our everyday living if we are to make the country better. Because in trying to make the country better, it isn't just about the leaders. It has to do with everybody. It starts from the family unit. You understand? Just from the small family unit. How do you lead the family? How do you explain things in the family? How do you control your children? What kind of advice are you giving them? What kind of exchanges, do you have with them? You have parents who have children living above, their means. And as parents, we are not bothered. We think it doesn't matter. You have a child, maybe you have a son who is barely 20 and is driving an expensive car, and you are not bothered as to how he acquired the wealth. You are starting gradually. You're already encouraging some kind of corruption. You need to know what your son or your daughter is doing, or you have a daughter using expensive things that you didn't buy, and you're not bothered about asking, where did you get this? So if you extend that out of the family, you take it to the community. You have people who suddenly become wealthy overnight, and we are not bothered. You take out of the community, you take it to the broader society. You have people who suddenly become rich overnight, and we are not bothered. Now, if we don't take cognizance of all these things, that is the same thing we also take to the national level. And so we need to find a convergence to say, look, can we find a way to ensure that we begin to get things right? If we get things right from the family, we're able to extend it to the outside society, and that way we become conscious. So even if you have a son that becomes a governor, you have a daughter that goes to the House of Assembly and suddenly becomes wealthy overnight, it's part of what should be questioning. How did you get this? But you have been telling us that, look, there's no money, there's no money in government. We are managing, we are trying to survive. You are telling us you are trying to survive, but we are saying that before you went, or before you were elected into this position, you had a car, or you didn't have a car. All of a sudden, you now have 6 cars. You now have houses, plethora of houses, all over, the places. So how do you begin to acquire this? How do we begin to question them? Let's not begin to say, oh, it's our son, it's our daughter. After all, other people did it. Why is it that it's not the turn of our daughter? You now want to begin to ask questions. So accountability must not become a watchword so that people don't live above their means. Once we're able to get that gradually, then we can begin to question people. We can begin to question those we elect. We can begin to question those who are appointed into public positions. How did you come about this? Come and explain to us. That way, gradually, we can begin to alter the course of where Nigeria is headed.
you talk about the family, like, and the responsibility of the family and all of that, and it sounds very
And
good.
accountability.
Yeah, it's a good message.
Yeah.
However, shouldn't the starting point be from the other end, the other way around? Doesn't it all start with leadership?
No, because it is from the followership that the leadership emerge.
Who provides direction?
The direction start from how you also give direction to your children while growing up. Because these are parts of what will form the foundation upon which you are building the integrity, the capability, the dignity, of the average person from theirs. Because if there's accountability, it will help put in check a lot of things that can go wrong. I just give you an example of people acquiring things overnight, and you are not accountable to anybody. Nobody is asking you questions. So you put that, or let's take that against what happens in other developed, societies. You can hardly find this kind of things happening. People will put you to question. Even your family members will be the first set of people to question you. Where did you acquire this? In developed economies or in other societies, family members even report their children to security agents and say, look, we don't know how he acquired this, or how she acquired this. We don't know where he went off to. We suddenly found him and we saw him with several millions of dollars. Then they begin to question you. They begin to report you. You can see where accountability starts from. So that when you suddenly become rich overnight, or you suddenly acquire certain things overnight, you know where the accountability, the question for accountability will start from. It will start from the family.
Be it as it may, let's talk about the situation we are in right now. Vis-a-vis, for example, justice delivery. And you identified challenges with that earlier on.
True.
And some would hold the opinion that maybe even many, that justice in Nigeria now is to the highest bidder. It depends on justice is given to who can afford it,
True.
who can pay for it. And that's why you have people. So something happens. Say, for example, maybe there's a minor collision on a road. And then rather than trust the system, call the police to come observe what's gone wrong, who violated the traffic rule, who moved when they shouldn't have moved, markings are taken, measurements are taken, and then maybe we'll go to a small claims court or go to some place and it's resolved and all of that. You hear people whip out their phones and asking, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? So Mr. A is making the call, Mrs. B is making the call. So who knows the higher person, which is dependent on your position in life or how much you have, who you can influence. So that's what by justice. And so in something happens even in the compound, and someone is saying, I will show you. And the tomato seller is scrounging up her tomato money she made from tomatoes yesterday to go pay a police officer to come harass, oppress her neighbor. And who called the police first is the person who pays in some instances. It's been said. I'm not saying that. So in such a system where people have come to understand, and that is what we have now, supposedly, that if you can pay for it to get justice, then how then can you question the quest to just get it? Otherwise, somebody can just walk up and what I described earlier at the start of this conversation, just come from nowhere and grab that which I even legally got for myself.
When we begin to get things right, some things will naturally fall in place. If we begin to get things right, if we begin to organize, from a small unit to a bigger unit, it helps us to also get justice, because you know that what does not belong to you does not belong to you. You won't have people shouting and saying, "Is our son, we support him," when others did it. Nobody talked to the person or nothing happened to the person. When condemnation starts from your own people, there's an extent to which you also want to go, because you know that the first reprimand will come from your people. So if I steal, for example, and I return home and my family says, we are not a family that steals, we can never encourage you to steal. In fact, we will go and report you to the police that you have stolen, and we will be there to testify against you. When you hear that, it sort of limits the extent to which you are willing to commit crime. When you check what happens in other decent societies, if somebody commits crime, a family member commits crime and is on the run, you will hear the family of such a person calling on him on her, please come and report yourself to the police. Why don't you give yourself up? Why don't you come and face your day in court? Are you innocent? Are you not innocent? Why don't you turn yourself in to the police and face or go through the normal process to prove yourself whether you're guilty or not? So it starts from the family. It starts from the society. Whenever there is a crime, the entire community rises against the crime and say, never are we going to allow this happen in our midst, because they know that if you allow one to go away, if you allow the other person to go away, the entire community is at peril. Because if you can't find any other thing to do or to rob or whatever you want to do, you face members of the community and you'll be up against you. So you see that if you start from the small unit, you start from the family, you start from the community, then the ability to get justice, rather than it being available maybe to the highest bidder, also become reduced, because you are not even willing to commit the crime in the first place. You know that the society will not accept you when you come back. If you're elected in an office and you acquire all manner of wealth, amass all manner of wealth, if you know if you are coming back home, your people will not even glorify it, then you know that there's a reasonable extent to which you'll be willing to do things. Not like what we have today. People get elected or occupy certain positions, amass all manner of wealth, and they're even given chieftaincy title, in their community. It means that the community accepts whatever you are doing. But what if the community says, no, I will not be part of this thing that you have done? It cautions you. It sort of inhibits you from doing what is not right. When we begin to set that agenda, begin to set that template, it will help in the overall justice delivery at the end of the day.
I think it's safe to say majority of our cases, we don't have the whole community or even a large portion of the community publicly, vocally expressing dismay at this misbehaviors, so to speak. So assume that I feel that way, and I think, no, this is wrong. I want to call out Mr. A or Mr. B, like you described. Now, community here means several things. Could be a natural community, a village, a street, a committee of friends, a workplace environment, a local government area, a state, the nation, whatever it is. Um, and I may feel like a lone voice. And it appears because the people who are in support are usually the loudest.
Sure.
And I feel like a lone voice in the wilderness. What do I do? Especially, I mean, it's also easy to say, no, you're doing something wrong when you have a meal on your table.
Yeah.
But I'm hungry as well.
Yes.
And I can see the praise singers. I mean, they're going to greet him when he comes home and they're receiving something.
Some few things.
Something come out.
Yes. Or that you don't talk while you are eating. That's a normal local pattern.
Something come out.
Yes.
And here you are, and I'm the lone voice. It's not like a lot of us are speaking against. Everybody else is saying he's the best thing that happens to sliced bread. Yes. What should I do?
No, we'll go back to how we started. We cannot become disillusioned. We can only continue to talk, even if you are the lone voice. We'll continue to talk. History will record it. You never can tell if probably 1, 2, or 3 other people may also be looking at you and be saying, yes, I think what he's saying makes sense. People can begin to aggregate opinion of people who feel that we need to shame those who are not doing well. We need to be able to talk about what is not right. Maybe we can begin to aggregate, people to come together. Maybe that way, then we'll be able to understand what is going on. Let's look at the case of kidnapping in some parts, of Nigeria. When it started, some people who had the means said, well, it was not their business. After all, they will not be able to get them. They didn't know they were breeding monsters. It was when it got to them and they can no longer visit even their own villages. That's when everybody began to rise up and say, no, we must fight this monster. We cannot continue this way. That's how crime starts too. When somebody starts stealing, they say, leave him. It's all this small stealing that he's doing. But he will graduate. One day he will acquire gun. Then when he acquires gun, you say, well, he's not doing the crime in the community. He's doing it in another place. when he can no longer go to where he usually gets things done, of course, you begin to turn him to members of the society. That's when you now describe that, oh, I didn't even know that this was not what was going to happen in the long run. I've read about, I'm trying to find out who said those things. That look, they came for this set of people because I was not them. I didn't bother. They came for the next set of people because I was not them. I didn't bother. They came for the next set of people. Of course, I wasn't part of them. I didn't bother. They came for the next set of people. It was not my business. Why should I shout? When they came for me, there was nobody else, to shout for me. So when you look at it from that, when you look at it from that level, it's better that we start shouting together than for you to say it is not my business. Because when they come for you, nobody will be there to shout for you.
From my interactions with a lot of people and young, maybe even not so young people as well these days, besides the quest to make money by whatever means, I think another quest on equal level, maybe even higher, is to japa, leave the country, go somewhere to where supposedly the grass is greener on the other side. Is that a sign of being disillusioned, and is it a viable option?
No, that's a sign of being disillusioned. That means you have given up practically. Some are just desperate to, and when you say Japa, some are just desperate to travel to any country. The Japa is famous with maybe traveling to Western Europe, maybe traveling to America, maybe traveling to some of the rich countries in Asia. But Japa to some Nigerians means that just leaving Nigeria to any country, regardless. Let me just leave Nigeria, wherever country I head to, I'll be able to make something, meaningful out of it. And you can understand that Nigerians are now facing, increasing, challenges in some of the countries. You heard what happened in South Africa, recently, and some of the disparaging remarks one of the high government officials of South Africa made about Nigerians. You've seen what has happened in Ghana, where we've continued to have skirmishes with the locals. You saw what happened recently in Cote d'Ivoire, where some Nigerians who have traveled to Cote d'Ivoire for genuine business were simply arrested and thrown into jail. It took the intervention of the federal government of Nigeria to bring them out of jail and return them to the country. See the increasing animosity against Nigeria in Asia, especially in China and Japan. You've seen the increasing hatred, against Nigerians in some other countries of the world. It means that, like we say in Yoruba language, no matter where you travel to, home is home. So even jackpine, isn't the solution to what is Nigeria's problem. Because sometimes you may, at any point in time in your life, you may want to return home and say, well, I've been able to do this abroad. Can I return home? So who did you leave the country with? That means at the end of the day, all of us might just jackpot out of Nigeria and leave the country for those who actually want to take over the country. Especially, we now have kidnappers, we have bandits, we have terrorists, and all of that. Are we going to leave the country for all these people? For those who want to jackpot out of disillusionment, it cannot mean that all of us will need to leave the country. We need to be. That's why I said we need to begin to alter the course, of this country. Maybe we need to sit down. A lot of people have said, look, can we negotiate even the way Nigeria is at the moment? Maybe that's another conversation. Someone saying, look, can we negotiate Nigeria? Can we actually opt out and say, look, we are no longer happy with this federation and let's break down into smaller units? Maybe that's another conversation. But then we need to find a convergence for us to discuss the way and manner Nigeria should go forward.
Another election cycle can be said to have begun in Nigeria. But then again, do the election cycles actually tune off in Nigeria? Because once the elections are won, campaigns begin almost immediately for
the next cycle of election.
For the next election, for the next 4 years. Like a month after, they are at each other's throats again, almost for the next 4 years until the next election comes around. Speaking of despair, earlier on the first half of the conversation described the challenges we have with our electoral process, with our democracy, and a lot of Nigerians have misgivings about the whole process. And some might even go as far as saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter. We believed at one point, but they are convinced that the majority didn't have their way." Of course, that can be challenged. Should And many of them, of course, would say it doesn't matter. What happens? Why should I be a part of a process I don't believe in, which I believe is not fair? What would you say to them?
Well, I think it's out of despair that a lot of Nigerians, excuse me, don't even want to participate in the forthcoming election. If you look at the results from 2023, I think less than 30 million Nigerians voted, or just about 25 or 26 million. If you aggregate all the results of all the parties that took part in the presidential election, less than 30 million Nigerians voted out of about 80 something million or thereabout, or about 90 something million, meaning that we had less than 50% of registered voters. And you can look at it in a way to say, look, the vast majority of registered voters stayed away from the election, meaning that majority did not even support the candidates that emerged. Against that background is what we should be looking at towards 2027. Can we get more Nigerians to come out and vote for governorship election, for national and state assembly, and of course for presidential election? Like I've said severally, Nigerians have so much fixation on who becomes the president of Nigeria to the exclusion of equally important positions. Some people feel House of Assembly is not important. Some feel the National Assembly is not important. Some feel what is their business with the governor, that it is the federal government that should do everything. It's an opportunity, or this provides an opportunity for us to encourage Nigerians. All elections are important, from the least to the highest. All of them are important because they all take decisions that affect the generality of Nigerians. So going into the 2027 electoral cycle is to say, look, let's encourage Nigerians. Come on, let's not say it's not our business. It's the business of all of us. Come on, vote for the candidates of your choice. Let's have a greater majority of Nigerians turning out to come and vote during the election. Let's do away with this idea of votes don't count. Votes do count. And I want to say that to Nigerians, that votes do count. Something, well, 2023, the candidate they voted for is not the one who won the election. It's difficult to say because you need to aggregate votes from all parts of Nigeria. So I want to say in 2023, some people won election completely against the run of play. Some people won election contesting for the first time in their life. So it means that votes do count. So if more Nigerians turn up on election day, it will be very difficult to rig in several places where people think elections are rigged to favor certain candidates.
Think elections are rigged? How do you convince that person who at their polling unit saw a van drive up with security officials who snatched the election materials, election officials, and zoomed off, as was reported in many cases?
Yeah, if you check most of the places where such things happen, you probably had a fewer people turning out. So if you have a polling unit of 500 persons and on election day, you see only just about 80 or even less than 50. Look at the recent governorship election in Ekiti State. We had some polling units where only 30 people turned up out of about 400 people. What happens? It makes it very easy for anybody to just drive in and scare the people away. What if you come to a polling unit out of 500 maybe registered voters in that polling unit, you have about 300, 400. There's a way the people who want to snatch these things, there's a way they also scour the area and see whether they can succeed or not.
Finally, Lekon, where does it all start from? Our not being disillusioned, maybe feeling some despair, but working it. I know you've said it in the course of conversation, but finally, in a few sentences, if you will, where does it all start from? Correcting all of this.
I've just said it. Let's start from the family. That's the micro unit of of what Nigeria is. Let's start from the family. From the family, we take it to society. Accountability is at the core of how Nigeria can progress. If we are accountable in what we do every day, right from the family, extended to the outside society, then we can begin to get things right gradually. Without accountability, without something to, to question our conscience, will continue to lead Nigeria astray, and we may never be able to get it right.
Thank you, Lekon. Despair, not disillusioned, is the topic of the conversation we've had today. Thanks to Lekon. The conversation I had with him earlier on, as always, it's been quite enlightening, Lekon. Lekon is the editor with the Independent Monitor. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Dyer, for having me. Thank you.
Remember, start with the family. You have a responsibility. And leadership does, but where does the leadership emanate from? Your family, my family. Thanks for joining once again. Catch this episode and others on our YouTube page and other social media channels. This was brought to you by Renaissance Africa Energy Company Limited. Thanks for watching once again and listening. I'm Daya Lushakin, and bye for now.